Hello guys, welcome back again to my channel. Welcome back again to another tutorial. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you how to cut and sew a basic skirt pattern with butt contour. You can see how the skirt fits my client perfectly, although my client doesn't have a big backside, but as she turns sideways, you can see that this skirt gave her a nice looking backside. If you love what you see and you want to recreate this for yourself or for somebody or for a client, make sure you watch this video to the very end so you don't miss out on any detail or explanation. If you're coming across this channel for the first time, thank you for stopping by. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel after watching this video, and to my existing subscriber, hello loves. Now let's get started with this video. I will be using this beautiful Ankara print for this tutorial, and what I have with me here is just 2.5 yards, although I didn't use everything, so if you're on a bigger size, 2 yards or 2.5 yards should be enough. I will basically fold this fabric into two, cut out a portion that we'll be using to draft the front skirt pattern. So guys, this is what we have after I was done cutting out the pieces that we'll be using to draft the front skirt pattern. To know the exact measurements you need to cut out the front skirt pattern, on the folded fabric, that is the larger portion of the fabric, you will fold it into two just like I explained earlier. Divide your hip circumference by 4, then you add your sewing allowance. Okay, then you measure your desired skirt length. After that, cut out the pieces, and that's what you need to cut out the front pieces. This top here is going to serve as the waistline or the start line. So from that top here, I'm going to be placing my measuring tape like this. I will be removing 1.5 inches from the measuring tape just the way you see me doing. The 1.5 inches I'm taking away is for the waistband. Then I came down by 9 inches for the hip length measurement and I marked that. Then I came down by 19 inches for the nail line measurement and I marked that. As for the length of the skirt, the total length of the skirt that I am working with is 33 inches. Then I added 2 inches for the hemming allowance, making it 35 inches. Then I mark it. Now I'm going to connect all this line that I have marked horizontally. Here on the waistline, I divided my round waist measurement by 4 and I marked it. The round waist measurement that I am working with is 28. 28 divided by 4 is 7. So I marked the 7 inches. Then I added 1 inch for that allowance, and I also add 1.5 inch for the sewing allowance. Okay. Here on the hip line, I'm going to divide the hip circumference that I am working with by 4. Then I will minus 1 inch from it and I will mark it. Now the hip circumference that I'm working with is 36. 36 divided by 4 is 9, minus 1 is 8 inches. Know that we are not throwing out the 1 inch we are removing from the hip measurements. We will replace this 1 inch when we are drafting the basket. Okay. Then here on the nail line, I will simply minus 1 inch from my hip measurement. Then I'll mark it here. Then I'll add 1.5 inches sewing allowance to it. That will also do the same thing to the length of the skirt, that is the hem line. I will simply minus 1 inch from the hip measurement. Then I'll mark it. Then I'll add 1.5 inches sewing allowance. After that, I'm going to use my chalk to connect all these points that I have marked. To eliminate excess fold on the front waist, here on the waistline, I came down by 1 inch. Now I'm going to use my free hand to connect these points all the way to the side. After that, I'm going to cut this out. This is what the front skirt piece looks like. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to fold another portion of fabric so we can draft the back skirt pieces. So guys, I am done cutting another fabric that we'll be using for the back pieces. When cutting out pieces for the basket pattern, the measurement with that of the front skirt pieces is the same, but for the basket pieces you'll be needing a zipper allowance. So for me, I added 2 inches zipper allowance, and that's the line that you see me row here. Now I'll place the front skirt pieces on the back skirt pieces like this. Make sure that the front skirt piece is sitting exactly on the line of the zipper allowance, just like this. Now I'm going to use my chalk to extend all this line that I have ruled, just the way you see me doing. Go ahead and do the same thing, extend all the lines. After that, I'm just going to cut the side out because basically the measurements are the same, okay? Here on the hip line, I will come out by 1 inch on the zipper allowance by the 1 inch that we removed from the hip measurements when we were drafting the front skirt pattern. After marking that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect this line from the waistline to meet this point that I came out by 1 inch. And I will also use my ruler to connect this point that I came out by 1 inch from the hip line to the nail line, just like this. Now we have successfully replaced the 1 inch that we removed from the hip line on the front skirt pattern. And also we have successfully contoured the hip. Now let's add the zipper allowance. So I'll be using 1 inch for the zipper allowance. So on the waistline here, I added 1 inches. Then here on the hip line, I have 1 inch left. So I just marked that. On the nail line, I went on to add 1 inch for the zipper allowance, and also on the length of the skirt I did the same thing. I added 1 inch for the zipper allowance. Now I'm going to use my ruler to connect all those points that I have marked like this. So this new line here is now the zipper allowance. Now let's go ahead and cut this out. After cutting out the back skirt pieces, I'll go ahead and fold the zipper allowance just the way you see me doing. Then I'll notch it, and I'll also notch the zipper allowance at the hem of the skirt. So the skirt pieces is almost ready. Now I'm going to separate the front from the back so that we can mark our dart. Here on the front piece waistline, I'll divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2 and I'll mark it there on the waistline. Now I'm going to fold this up like this and notch it so that I can remember that that's where the dart is going to sit. And I'll do the same thing for the back pieces as well. And as for the dart length, the dart length is going to be 4.5 inches. So let me just mark that up. And this is basically all for the drafting of the cutting of the skirt pieces. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut lining for it, okay? And I'll be doing this off camera. So guys, I have gone ahead to cut my lining pieces for the main skirt fabric, and what I did when I was cutting the lining was I reduced the length of the lining by 2 inches, okay? So the 2 inches hemming allowance on the main skirt fabric is going to cover for the shortage on the lining. I hope you understand what I am saying. If you don't, you will get to understand more as we progress in this video. So what I am doing right now is I want to know where the length of the lining stop on the main fabric so I can notch it. Go ahead and do the same thing. Just get the length of the lining on the main fabric, notch it so that when we are sewing we can know where the 2 inches hemming allowance stop on the main fabric. So the next thing we are going to do is to separate the lining from the main fabric. Then I will go ahead and spread my front piece skirt like this. Then I'll place my lining piece on it, right side facing each other. Now I'll arrange the lining piece on the main fabric properly. Then I'll head over to the sewing machine and hem the length of the skirt piece, and I'll do the same thing to the back pieces as well. I will simply place the back lining on the skirt back pieces, right side facing each other. I will arrange this properly. Then I'll head over to the sewing machine and I will sew the hemline first, and I'll do the same thing to the second pieces as well. So let me go over to the sewing machine and sew this and bring it so that you see what we have. So guys, this is what I have after I was done stitching the hemline. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the lining up to cover up the allowances on the waistline, just the way you see me doing. I'm going to arrange this properly. As I'm arranging the lining on the main fabric, you can see the excess fabric on the hemline. That is the folding allowance that I left earlier. So I'm just going to head over to the sewing machine now and I'm going to sew the both side, and I will simply do the same thing to the second back skirt pieces as well. I'll simply drag the lining to cover up the allowance on the waistline of the main fabric. Now I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'll stitch the both side. Then I'll do the same thing to the second back skirt pieces. So this is what I have after I was done joining the both side. Now I'm going to turn this over to the right side, and for the sharp edge on the hemline, I'm just going to use my scissors to push this out. Hope you can see how the main fabric cover up for the shortage on the lining. I will do the same thing thing to the second back skirt pieces as well. I'll simply turn this over to the right side, and as for the sharp edges, I'm going to use my scissors to push it out just the way you see me doing. Then I'll do the same thing to the second basket pieces as well. Now I'm going to head over to the ironing table and I will iron all the edges properly. So this is what I have after I was done ironing. Now to sew the dart, I'm just going to fold up my skirt piece like this. You can see where I knot my dart here. Now I will just cross check my dart measurement to see that it is correct. After that, I'm just going to fold this up and I'll go to the sewing machine and I'll sew the dart by 4.5 inches length. Okay, I'll measure down to 4.5 inches and I'll go ahead and sew my dart. Then I'll do the same thing to the second side of the dart as well. I'll simply fold it like this. Then I will head over to the sewing machine and I will stitch the dart. And also I will simply be sewing the dart on the basket pieces as well. For the basket pieces, before I sew the dart, I will simply arrange the both pieces together, right side facing each other. I will arrange the edges properly and make sure everything is in place. Then I went on to mark the 1-inch zipper allowance that I left. For the length of the zipper, I came down by 5 inches and I make a mark there. From this point where my zipper will stop, I will simply come down by 15 inches and I'll make a mark there. Then I'll use my chalk to connect a line up to this point where my zipper will stop, and I'll go ahead and stitch this part. Now this remaining allowance downward will be for the slit at the back. So guys, this is what I have after I was done sewing the dart and also joining the center back. I did the same thing to the front piece as well. I simply sewed the dart on the front piece. Now I'm just going to arrange the back piece and the front piece together, right side facing each other. So here on the waistline, I divided the round waist measurement by 2 and I marked it. The round waist measurement that I am working with is 28. 28 divided by 2 is 14. Now I'm going to place my measuring tape like this and I'll mark 14 inches, leaving the side allowances that is remaining. And I'll do the same thing on the hip line as well. I'll simply divide the hip measurement by 2 and I marked it. The hip measurement I am working with is 36. 36 divided by 2 is 18 inches. So I marked the 18 inches. Now I'm going to use my chalk to connect this point together like this. Then from the hip line down to the length of the skirt, I'm going to leave 1.5 inch right here. So I'm just going to use my chalk to connect this point all the way to meet the hip point, and I'll do the same thing for the side as well. Now I'll head over to the sewing machine and I'll sew the both side where I have marked. This is what I have after I was on sewing the both side. So the next thing we are going to do is to fix the band, and I have gone ahead to cut the band. So the length of this band is 29 inches, then while the width of the band is 4.5 inches. And also I went on to iron interfacing on the band. Just as you can see, I just ironed the interface on one side of the band, then I went on to fold this part by 0.25 inch. Now I will fold up this band like this, then I will stitch this edge by 1/4 inch, and I will do the same thing to the second side. I will fold it up like this, then I'll stitch the edge by 1/4 inch. Let me go and do this and bring it so I see what we have. So this is what I have after I was done stitching the edges. Now I'm going to turn this over to the right side. Now let's fix this band on the skirt waistline. So on this side of the band where I did not fold, I'm going to place the band just this way and I'll use my pin to secure it. So go ahead and do the same thing. Place your band on the skirt, then use your office pin to secure it all the way around, just the way you see me doing. Now that I'm done pinning the band to the skirt, I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch this. This is what I have after I was done stitching the band. So the next thing we are going to do is to use this side of the band where I fold in by 0.25 inches to cover up the band, just the way you see me doing. You can use your office pin to hold this all the way around before stitching, but I will take this over to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch this directly. This is what we have after I was done covering the rough edges on the band. and you can see how neat the stitch is. So the next thing we are going to do is to fix the zipper on the zipper allowance. So now I'm going to place my zipper properly. I'll head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to fix my zipper. And guys, this is what it looks like after I was done stitching the zipper. We are basically done sewing this skirt. You can see how beautiful and how neat this looks. Let me turn this over to the wrong side so that you see how the inner looks like. You can see how neat the inner also looks. Thank you so much for watching this video to this point. If you have any question concerning this tutorial, please leave your question in the comment section and I will respond to it. And if you have been following up on this channel and you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do well to subscribe to the channel. And for those coming across this channel for the first time, please do well to subscribe to this channel as well. Do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and also share this video. Bye. See you all in my next video.